Covenant is such a great topic because it really allows us to see ourselves in reference to our relationship with God. I would love to dig a bit deeper into this subject because I believe it is the revealing factor to our Christian walk. In specific ways, how does an understanding of covenant affect my everyday life?
Well, let's look at the different roles that we have in life. Let's look at, first of all, the church. Okay, my relationship with the different members of a church, we have the same Father, so that makes us brothers and sisters. So that means automatically we are in a covenant relationship, okay? And that covenant protects you from self-interest. And so it protects me from being tempted to use people. Because I'm going to meet a lot of people in church, people who have different things to offer, okay? And so there could be a temptation to want to use people for money or use people for advantage or use people, use the opposite sex for physical advantage, all those kinds of things. And so if I'm under the guidance of covenant, if I'm under the influence of covenant, then I'm only going to do things that will bless other people. I'm not going to use other people. The Bible says that strife comes from self-will, okay, that fighting and all those things come from self-will, okay? And so it's going to eliminate the fights. It's going to eliminate the competition. It's going to eliminate the comparison, okay? Under the covenant with God, I'm not supposed to compare myself to other people. The Bible says that's not wise, okay? So it eliminates that competition. It eliminates me acting in a hypocritical way because I'm trying to impress, I'm trying to trick somebody, I'm trying to impress somebody, so to hide my bad motives. Under covenant, my motives are good. My intentions toward you are good, okay? What if pastors operated in covenant with one another? Okay, rather than seeing themselves in competition with one another. A new pastor comes to the city, my first thing would be, okay, what is his assignment? Okay, we have the same Father. We work for the same guy. Okay, so what's this guy's assignment in the city? And he's been sent here to bless the city. I'm in the city, so that means he's been sent here to bless me, as opposed to me having a scarcity mentality that there's only so many Christians and that everyone he gets is a loss for me. Okay, I want to see his role in the city. What is he called to do? He may provide, one of my kids may marry one of his members, and if they've been taught right and trained right, it's going to make for a happy marriage for one of my kids, if that makes sense. And so we want to see each other as a blessing, a potential blessing, and see the potential in one another and help that rather than compete and fight with one another, okay? So what if the world was that way? What if people in their callings saw themselves as not operating out of self-interest? I mean, we have a lot of problems in our society. Our food is poisoned, okay? We have predatory lenders. We have elected officials who are corrupt, who operate just on the basis of self-interest. It would deliver us from all that. Everybody would see themselves as servants. See, because in God, because he adds one role to me doesn't diminish the other role. And so before I was a son, I was a servant. Now that I'm a son, I'm still a servant. And so I'm called to serve. I'm called to make things better. I'm called to help others. And so what if we all saw ourselves as servants in society rather than everybody trying to get their own, everybody trying to get mine, if that makes sense? I look at family. I look at marriage. One of the problems that we have in our society is that people are not getting married in our society, in our country, especially Black Americans are not getting married anymore. It's an alarming number of people who are living outside of marriage. It's an alarming number of children that are born to one-parent households. I mean, if we would be honest about it, we are in a real crisis in this way. And I believe a lot of that is related to how we look at covenant and that we don't relate in the context of covenant anymore. In other words, God gives us covenant to settle things so that we can have faith, so that we can build. And without covenant, it's hard to build, okay? And so you have relationships where there's intimacy, but there's no covenant. And covenant is the only safe context for intimacy. Okay, in other words, I can't let you see me as I am until I know you're committed to not reject me. And so if you're not committed to a relationship with me, there are certain things you're never going to find out about me. I'm never going to let you see those things. And so until we are in a committed relationship, the relationship is now based on manipulation. It's based on what you do and what I do for you, as opposed to a commitment to you and doing what I do for you out of my heart and out of my integrity, as opposed to getting you to do something. And so as a result, people are not getting married anymore. I don't think women understand the power of covenant and the power of their uniqueness, and that a man is drawn to you for one of two reasons. He either wants you or he wants something from you. Okay, if he wants something from you, half the women on earth have that. And so that's not going to be a strength for you if he wants something. But if he wants you, there's no other person on this earth that's like you. You are the only one of you that exists. And that uniqueness, God uses the attraction to that uniqueness to help mature a man and force him to give up options, okay? Men, immaturity is reflected in that I don't want to give up options. Like, you've ever seen a little kid walk around with all their toys in their hand because company has come over and they want to guard all their toys. They want to guard all their stuff. They want to keep their guests from playing with their toys, okay? That's a sign of immaturity, is that you can't commit to one thing, okay? And so in that, because I know I do a lot of encouragement to women as far as how to relate to men. And sometimes they get frustrated with me and say, why don't you say anything to the men? Well, I can, but the man's problem is immaturity. And a lot of his maturity is gained in the relationship, in the pursuit of the woman who is the woman of his dreams. She forces him to give up options and mature. And so our women have to understand that covenant is the only thing that's going to solve the marriage problem, understanding covenant, and that it is required that women have the power of sex, men have the power of marriage, and one is getting one without having to give up the other one. And so you have a lot of sex happening, but you don't have a lot of marriage and families being built. And with that, it affects us financially, it affects us morally, it affects us in the raising of our kids. And so we really need to return to an understanding of covenant and understand that God gives us covenant for a contextual framework for safety so that we can build and so that we can operate out of that. And so there's a lot of things daily that would change if we understood covenant, if we understood that children are the children of covenant, are the children of commitment, and that they are a channel to transgenerational blessing. I hear Christians talk about generational curses all the time, but we don't hear about transgenerational blessing much. But children having families is a way of continuing a legacy of blessing, in the way that we serve society, okay? And so covenant is a big deal. Keeping of covenant is a matter of integrity, is a matter of who you are, and it's a really big deal in our society. And I think that we need to really talk about covenant more and talk about the contextual framework of covenant, talk about the components of covenant. Having a physical relationship with somebody is a component of covenant. God designed us so that when a marriage is consummated, it actually executes a blood covenant. And so everything is in the context of covenant with God. He's a covenant-keeping God. He's a covenant-making God, a covenant-keeping God. And so I believe if we were to understand these things, the world would be a better place. And that your place in society, where you serve in society, is God's place for you to make things better for people. So if I'm a doctor, if I'm a lawyer, if I'm a politician, if I'm a teacher, principal, whatever my role is God's choice for me, is God's calling for me in how I serve mankind. So that's part of my worship. Okay, if I understand covenant, then I understand that work is worship, and that my work is worship. When I'm doing what God called me to do, that's part of my worship. I believe in Jewish culture, they have that understanding. That's why they don't have a Jewish word for retirement, because I never stop serving mankind. I never say, okay, I'm all done, and I go home and quit serving people. My roles may change. I may not be as busy as I once was, but I continue to serve God. I never stop serving God. I never stop worshiping God by giving him my life and serving others, okay? So I'm called to love God, and I'm called to love my neighbor as myself, okay? And so my neighbor, and so if that governed our our behavior, if that governed what we did, man, the world would be a much different place. And so that's how Jesus is the answer to everything. He's really the answer to all the problems, because within that context of covenant, we would solve all the problems that we have. We would solve the hunger problem. We would reach out to people who were hungry. We would enable people who are poor. We would empower people that are poor. We would protect the vulnerable. Okay, and so everything that I do is related to my covenant with God.
Wow. You know, you just made a statement in reference to men and women in regard to covenant, which was really powerful. Can you please explain that statement you made in which you said women have the power of sex and men have the power of marriage?
Okay, I believe God created women to be, according to the word, they're the highest creation, okay? They were formed with more care than anything he ever made, okay? And I believe that there's an attraction that every male has, every healthy male has to women, okay? And he's drawn to her. He wants to draw from her. I believe that being in a relationship with a woman makes you feel like a man, okay? The problem is that it doesn't make you a man, but it makes you feel like a man. And so there's a huge attraction there and it's the power of sex it resides with women. They have the power to choose who they have sex with. I think that's why rape is such an abominable sin, to take that from somebody, because it's supposed to be given willingly, okay? And so I believe that because men have been created to pursue, I don't believe it's healthy for a woman to pursue a man, okay, and that when being pursued, she has the power to say yes or no to the man. And that ability to say no forces a man, it matures a man. You mature when you don't get what you want, okay? And when love is your real motivation, okay, the wait doesn't seem excessive, okay? The fact that you have to wait, lust gets frustrated when it's not satisfied quick. But love isn't. And so love is easily satisfied. Lust is never satisfied. If a person lusts after you, you don't have the capacity to satisfy them, because lust is never satisfied. If I'm lusting after somebody short, then once I have them, I want somebody tall. Okay. If I'm attracted to this and I get it, now I'm attracted to that, because lust is never satisfied. But love is easily satisfied. And so a person loves you, they after the unique you, because your love for them is enough. Okay, they don't have to have this now before the commitment comes. They can wait. When you love, you can wait. David loved God and he could wait. He could wait on God, okay? And so this would solve a lot of things, and we would have a lot more marriages, I believe, and a lot more families if women held out when a man, because when somebody wants you, really wants you, nothing else will do. No other person will do. And if a man refuses you because of that, then he needs to know that he possibly missed the woman of his dreams, because he never got to experience her because he didn't have the ability to pay the price for her. Okay? Lack of price promotes experimentation. Okay? When things don't cost much, I can experiment with them, if that makes sense. Okay? When things cost a lot, I have to really consider if I want to invest before I do. And so if a woman, how can I say it? Involvement with you as a woman should cost me. It should cost me my pattern. It should cost me some priority. You should demand to be a priority in a man's life, okay? Because you don't want to be experimented with, okay? There's a big discussion right now. Who's the prize, the man or the woman? Well, I believe the woman is the prize, okay? And I believe if she doesn't consider herself the prize, she will risk being experimented with and being experienced and tossed to the side, okay, because it didn't involve a commitment. And so covenant is the only safe context for intimacy. I know I'm saying some controversial things right now, but I'm open to questions about these things. I'm open to a discussion about these things.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Wanting a woman should cost you your pattern. What does that mean?
Okay. when you fall in love, the first way you know you're in love is it breaks your pattern. Okay, all of us have a pattern to our life. We get up, we do things, we have things that we do on a regular basis. Our life is built on the cyclical way that we do things, the way we eat, the way we exercise, the way we study, the way we do things, okay? When you fall in love, that pattern breaks and something or someone becomes a new priority for you, whether you fall in love with a person or with football or whether it's an activity, a business, a relationship. Okay, is that it breaks your pattern. You have a new pattern. All right, and so if someone is not worth me breaking my pattern for them, okay, then I'm not worthy of their time because that means they're not a priority for me. And so, especially as a woman being pursued, you have to insist on being a priority to a man. Otherwise, you don't know if you're valued or not. If that makes sense.
Mm. We live in a society where women pursue men.
Right.
What's wrong with that picture?
Well, if a woman pursues a man, how will you know if he really wants you? And everybody, will have an experience if they can, and it doesn't cost them anything. And so when a woman pursues a man, it delivers him from the cost, from having to pay the price of pursuit and the price of breaking his pattern and the price of making her a priority, which promotes experimentation. And so what happens is it sets you up for hurt when a woman pursues a man because it makes her possibly girl B when she should want to be girl A, if that makes sense.
What is girl B versus girl A?
Well, sometimes when I'm teaching this concept, I'll ask the room, if there are women in the room, I'll ask them, say, who's your example of like somebody that you consider your most attractive person on earth? And I'll hear different names depending upon the audience. You hear Denzel, Idris, you hear different names, okay? I say, okay, we're gonna make him boy A. I said, and tell me somebody, boy B is somebody who's, he's not ugly, but he's okay. He's somebody that you would give a shot if they asked for you. And then, so they'll come up with another name. So that's boy A, boy B. Boy A is your dream guy, boy B is a nice guy, okay? And so I say, so you're at a social function and you see boy A, and man, he just does it for you, he's just everything you'd ever want in a man, okay? But he doesn't approach you. Then boy B comes along, and he approaches you and he asks you out. You're not dating anybody, you're not doing anything, and so, why not? And so you arrange to date him, you begin to date boy B, and then boy A calls you and says, I saw you at the function the other day, and when I was going to approach you, somebody else came and started talking to you. But somebody that I know gave me your number, and so I told them I was really attracted to you, and they told me I should give you a call, so I'm giving you a call. And so you've been going out with boy B, but boy A now is after you. What are you gonna do? And most people would drop boy B and go out with boy A, okay? And that's the problem. When you are a woman pursuing a man, you're taking a chance on being girl B, okay? And you're taking a chance on getting dropped when the one he's really pursuing allows him to date them. Okay, so if he gets the girl A, he's going to drop girl B, and that's the problem with when a woman pursues a man, is that cost prohibits experimentation, and so if he's not willing to pay the cost of pursuing you, then he probably doesn't deserve to be in your world.
Mm. So how does all of this, including the relationship piece, tie into the subject or the topic of covenant?
Because it's value. It has to do with value. God so loved the world that he cut covenant with us, that he committed to us, okay? So before I ever accept him as Lord, Jesus has already gone to the cross and made a place for me, okay? And so when I receive him, my destiny is already set, okay? And it's a value piece. And so if you value people, you relate to people based on covenant, not just what you want or what you want to get from them. You relate to people based on covenant. If I value you, I don't use you, and I don't treat you out of self-interest. That's the difference.